Hey, I'm Srini, the creator of Maximize Your Output with Mem. Imagine if you could get into a flow state in a fraction of the time that it normally takes, which is usually about 90 minutes of uninterrupted focus on a single task. And imagine being able to overcome writer's block, not by having the AI write for you, but by sparking your own creativity and kicking you into a state of flow in about 15 minutes. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how you can leverage AI and the power of questions to get into a flow state faster than you ever thought possible. Now, let's get to the tutorial. So what I'm going to show you in this video is how you can use the power of AI to get into flow states and to do deep work so that you can achieve peak performance with the assistance of AI. And before we go into how to do this, I think the most important thing here is to understand why you should do this and why it actually works so well. And this is something that I discovered during the process of writing an extensive blog post where I was having trouble communicating with AI, whether it be MemChat or Chat GPT, to help me structure something. So I decided instead of asking it questions, to have it ask me questions. And if you notice typical AI usage, people are typically just typing in prompts and using the first response they get, but they don't engage in a dialogue. And I realized that by having AI ask you questions, you actually opened up a ton more possibilities. And I accidentally discovered that this actually was a rapid on-ramp into flow. I was trying to write an introduction to a blog post and I had it generate 3 to 4 questions for me. And I noticed that what I thought was going to take an hour ended up taking 15 minutes and I was completely in the zone. So I decided to do this tutorial to explain how this all works. So the key understanding here is the cognitive benefits of questions. By having AI ask you questions, you actually reverse the dynamics and it can be used for all sorts of things. You can use it to overcome writer's block, whether you want to use it for study sessions or even explore different topics and go more in depth. So how does this actually work? First, we're going to do this in Mem. And inside of Mem, the key to doing this, and this is a more advanced version of this, you can literally say, hey, ask me 5 questions about a topic if you wanted to. One thing to keep in mind also is when you're having the AI generate questions, you want to limit it to 3 to 4 questions. I've noticed that when I have more than 3 to 4 questions, it's much harder. It turns out that this is a cognitive sweet spot for using AI assisted questions to help you get into flow. Inside of Mem, the first thing we are going to do is we're going to create what I call the unstructured deep work template. And the reason that I wanted to create this was I was thinking about the idea that I have thousands and thousands of notes, but sometimes I don't know what I want to write about. And I wondered how I might be able to still do deep work when I don't know what I want to write about or I don't have a specific topic in mind. And so I worked with MemChat to come up with this template. So this is what the template looks like, where you define the objective. MemChat basically set this up with certain suggestions. Now, you can modify this to your own needs. And so the idea here is that you basically have an unstructured deep work session where using all the notes in your knowledge base, you can end up writing for an hour or two, even if you don't necessarily know what you want to write about. Now, we can use this in 2 different ways. The first is what we call the exploratory approach, and the second is what we call the topic specific approach. But the first step in all of this is to set up a template to have instructions here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to test this template out and we're going to run it on 2 different topics. So in this case, what I'm going to do is just apply it to network thought as an example for the topic specific one. But first, we're going to run the unstructured deep work template just as it is. And what you'll see here is that it will run us through this process and it will suggest a couple of topics possibly, and even come up with a couple of questions. And so here you can see it's coming up with your ideas. So you'll see here now it's going through the template and you can see that here we have to sometimes make modifications to the template. And I will just say, okay, go ahead and ask me the questions or suggest the themes. And so you'll see here that it's giving me 3 different topics and I'm going to basically say, let's go to with the future of work. And unlike a writing session where you might say have a blank page or you're just looking at a list of bullet points, because of the fact that questions prompt the brain to think differently, we tend to be much more in flow when we're answering questions. So each one of these, based on just the notes in my knowledge base, I could spend 2 hours writing about. So one of the things that I also recommend you do is to create a mem, which is going to be called your unstructured deep work session mem, where you'll be able to link other notes and then give it the date as well, so you know which day it's from. You could also assemble all your unstructured deep work sessions into a collection. But you can see here that we now have basically one where we didn't have any idea what we wanted to write about. We went and said, okay, to run this, and it gave us not only some themes to write about based on everything that's inside of the knowledge base, but then it also helped us narrow it down to 5 questions that we can focus on. Now let's actually apply it to a specific topic and see how this works. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have it apply the template to networked thought. And so that way you can see exactly what happens when you take a topic specific approach. Do that again, do a cut here. So now what I'm going to do, cut all that up. All right. So now what we want to do is we want to actually take a topic specific approach in this case to our deep work session. Even though we call it an unstructured deep work session, we can still apply the deep work template to this idea. So we can actually set up the template if we wanted to say, when I give you a topic, apply the questions to the topic. When I run it just unstructured and don't have any idea, then just go with what you can come up with. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to give it a thought or a topic to focus on. So in this case, we're focusing on network thought, and same thing will happen basically. You'll see here that it comes up with several questions for me to answer, and then you just set a timer and you explore. So basically what you're doing is you're using AI to generate a list of questions that help you get into flow. Now, the cool thing about this is that you're not limited to just using mem. Even if you are not a mem user, you can still use this concept. So now let's actually go ahead and look at how this works inside of Chat GPT. And again, we can take a topic specific approach, or we can take a approach where we just need inspiration and we have writer's block. So in this case, I'm going to basically say the role of AI in podcasting. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to ChatGPT and I'm going to just say, great, just generate this list of questions. And so the nice thing about this is, again, what we're talking about here is that it's giving us something to think about, and it accelerates our ability to start processing rather than, for example, looking straight at, say, a list of bullet points about these things. And based on just these questions that we've generated in the last 6 or 7 minutes, I probably have a week's worth of writing that I could do. So now let's do this. We're going to start another thread. And this time, instead of having a topic, and we'll even tell it, I'm seeking inspiration and experiencing writer's block. And then basically what we'll say is, give me 3 to 4 topics. And so we're going to go ahead and put that into there. And so that's great. So like basically what it's doing is coming up with all sorts of different ideas here. Some of them are a bit crazy, but I could say, okay, these seem a little less practical. And so I'm going to say, okay, I'm a nonfiction writer, so let's refine these. And now we're basically seeing here that, okay, this is the evolution of artificial intelligence and impact on society. And so then what I could then say is, okay, based on number 2, generate 3 to 4 questions. So let's go ahead and do that. And again, what it's going to do is it's going to give us thought-provoking questions. And the beauty of that is that the moment those thoughts are provoked, we start to be able to write. So if you've ever done this, you've probably noticed it's much easier to answer questions than, say, being able to just distill some of these ideas Yeah, as bullet points. So, for example, if we said social media and our perception of reality and truth, that's an interesting place to start. But now we have this very in depth question here. And then we can use these questions and then we can go back into our writing tool of choice, whether that happens to be MEM. You can even do this in Chat GPT if you wanted to, although I don't recommend it. But the same rules of deep work and flow still apply, regardless of the fact that you're using AI. You still need to be able to work without interruption on a single task for an extended period of time. But the nice thing about this is that instead of having to wait 90 minutes before you are in flow, you can get there much faster because you have a set of questions that are guiding you. And the thing that is really important here is that you actually try this out because of the fact that it makes absolutely no sense for me to show you what it's like to write for 90 minutes as part of this video. You need to try it out. But I think you'll be really surprised by how effective this is, whether you're a writer who's trying to overcome writer's block or you're just looking to get yourself into the zone. I've been using this method for about 2 weeks now, and I've realized one of the keys to not only getting into flow with AI, but humanizing AI generated content is to shift the dynamic and have AI ask you questions instead of you asking AI questions. And as always, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below.